Okay, so my presentation then is about the foreign tribute at Akhenaten's Durbar ceremony. So what is a Durbar, sometimes spelled Darbar, and what does it have to do with foreign tribute? The word Durbar is originally from Middle Persian dar, door or gate, and bar, an audience hall. In the Urdu language of India, it means a public reception held by an Indian prince. The term came into the English language after the British conquest and occupation of India. Modern Egyptologists use the term Durbar to describe tribute ceremonies held in ancient times. Akhenaten's tribute scenes are depicted in two of the north tombs of the nobles at Amarna, the modern name for the ancient site of the city of Akhenaten. Akhenaten, or horizon of the solar disk, the Aten, was the new capital city founded by the 18th dynasty king, Akhenaten. Akhenaten, whose name means beneficial to the Aten, was, of course, the revolutionary pharaoh who tried to change Egyptian religion and art during the brief 17-year period between approximately 1353 and 1336 BCE. Akhenaten's Durbar foreign tribute was held during his 12th regnal year, second month of Peret, the planting season, on Tep, the 8th day of the month. Huya's tomb scene depicts the parade to the Durbar pavilion. Mary Ray II's tomb scene depicts gifts presented at the Durbar. Foreign tribute scenes are not uncommon in ancient Egyptian tombs. Here's an example from Beni Hasan tomb 14, showing Asiatics bringing gifts to Middle Kingdom governor Khnum-hotep I. Here's another example from Theban tomb TT 100, the tomb of Rekhmere, Amenhotep III's vizier. Nubians are shown in the top picture, and Syrians are shown below, bringing tribute to the king. These scenes were copied in 1833 by British traveler George Alexander Hoskins. Carl Richard Lepsius visited Amarna twice, in 1843 and 1845. He was a Prussian Egyptologist who produced an important work called
Denkmäler aus Ägypten und Äthiopien,
which means monuments from Egypt and Nubia. I hope Miriam appreciates that I didn't attempt the German. Lepsius recorded these colored tribute scenes during his visit to TT40, the Theban tomb of Amenhotep Hui, Tutankhamun's viceroy of Nubia. They show foreign tribute presented to Tutankhamun, who was enthroned in his pavilion. The southern countries bring gifts in the upper picture, and the northern countries present offerings in the lower scene. The nobles who owned these private tombs took pride in showing their involvement in the presentation of foreign gifts to the king and their own access to these luxury goods. Norman de Garris Davies, shown in the left photo with his wife Nina, were a husband and wife team of illustrators who copied the paintings in Egyptian tombs in the early 20th century. The photo on the right shows Davies and his workmen sitting in front of one of the Amarna tombs. Davies' drawings were especially accurate, having used a wooden frame with string grids placed in front of a wall painting, which was then copied onto gridded paper sheets. In a way, he was reversing the process the ancient Egyptians used to paint the very scenes in the very first place, like this unfinished scene of Thutmose III. Davies' drawings in the tombs of the nobles were done between 1903 and 1907 and published in 6 volumes called The Rock Tombs of El Amarna. In my research, I have used scans of both his original publication, which is available online, and the 2004 reprint published by the Egypt Exploration Society. Davies used some earlier illustrations drawn by Robert Hay in 1833 and Nestor Lahote in 1839, and the Lepsius exhibition in 1845 to fill in blank areas that had been damaged by the time Davies recorded Amarna's tomb scenes. I'm using several of Davies' drawings for my talk today. Now let's move on to the foreign tribute scenes at Amarna. Huya was the overseer of the royal harem, its treasuries, and steward of the house of Akhenaten's mother, Queen T. His tomb number TA1 is in the rock-cut north tombs of the nobles at Amarna. This is Davies' photo of the outer hall and shrine in Huya's tomb. And here are modern photos of the shrine and part of Huya's Durbar scene. This is the plan of Huya's tomb. Entering, turning left into the outer hall, on the west wall number 9 on this plan, there's a scene showing Akhenaten and Nefertiti traveling towards the Durbar site, which is shown at number 8. Here's the left side of the Durbar scene, number 9 on the previous slide, as it looks today. And this is how it looked in the early 1900s when sketched by Davies. Here's the missing part of the scene, taken from a drawing by Lepsius done in the 1840s. It shows Akhenaten and Nefertiti side by side being carried from the palace at the top left to the site of the Durbar ceremony. The inscription above Akhenaten reads, and I quote, "Year 12, the 2nd month of planting, the 8th day. The king of the south and north, Neferkeperu Ra," that's Akhenaten, "and the queen Nefertiti, living forever and ever, made a public appearance on the great palanquin of gold to receive the tribute of Karu, Syria, and Cush, Nubia. All the countries and the islands in the heart of the sea collected at one time, bringing offerings to the king on the great throne of Akhenaten, for receiving the taxes of every land and granting to them the breath of life." End quote. This is a close-up of the palace shown in the top left of the previous slide, and Davies' plan of the palace. There's some resemblance to the layout of the great palace at Amarna, with its window of appearance, audience hall with a loggia and throne, and a bedroom for the king. But we really don't know which of the king's palaces is depicted. And also, notice the servant sweeping the floor, probably a never-ending task for a city built in the desert. Here's a reconstruction of Akhenaten looking out of his window of appearance. And this is a reconstruction of a loggia and baldachin canopy on an elevated platform with thrones for both Akhenaten and Nefertiti, their names and the symbol of the Aten behind them. It's based on a reconstruction of the remains of an actual structure found in the palace of Amenhotep III at Al-Qada. Amenhotep III, of course, was Akhenaten's father. To impress the foreign dignitaries, the king and queen are carried to the Durbar on an elaborate palanquin. Akhenaten and Nefertiti sit side by side in chairs, adorned on its side with sphinxes, which wear the double crown of Upper and Lower Egypt. The chairs are carried on sturdy poles by a dozen men, and the image of a striding lion adorns the sides of the palanquin. Fan bearers march beside the king and queen, keeping them cool and shaded from the Egyptian sun. And Nefertiti's arm can be seen draped around Akhenaten. Double statues of couples from ancient Egypt sometimes show this affection, where the wife wraps her arm around her husband's waist. Akhenaten and Nefertiti's 2 eldest daughters, Merit-Aten and Mekhet-Aten, are shown walking behind a palanquin, their names in the cartouches just in front of them, followed perhaps by their next 2 younger daughters who are not named. Behind them are their nurses and several ladies in waiting. 3 officials precede these women, and the one in the top register is probably Huya. Here's the right-hand scene in Huya's tomb as it looks today. It was number 8 on the tomb plan I previously showed, and as sketched by Davies. The scene shows the king and queen's destination, the Durbar ceremony area. An empty loggia and baldachin are shown, as the king and queen have not yet arrived for the Durbar. 3 chariots wait outside the ceremonial area, perhaps for use on their return journey. Soldiers accompany the procession, many armed with curved sticks. A priest burns incense as he walks in front of the royal palanquin, which is just out of view to the left. Desert warriors walk in front of the priest. They have feathers in their hair. And before them, looking back at the royal party, is probably Huya. He's preceded by 3 figures, jubilantly dancing. The tribute brought from the northern vassal states includes 2 chariots, 4 copper ingots, and a number of chests and vases filled with spices and unguents. Davies speculates the group below in the center from the southern tribes of Nubia represents slaves who are followed by their wives. Davies also suggests that the group of men in the 5 right-hand registers, who are led by the police, are groups of prisoners with their fettered wrists. Here's a close-up of a wooden fettering block handcuffing Syrian prisoners. It's from the tomb of Horemheb. Davies thinks that because these gifts and slaves appear to be presented by native Egyptians and not by foreign ambassadors, that these gifts may actually represent foreign booty rather than freely given tribute. So next, let's look at the Durbar ceremony site. The pavilion is on an elevated platform reached by a set of steps with a canopy supported by 4 columns. Its lintel is capped with rows of uraeus cobras. The 3 altars just to its left may be similar to the desert altars near the north tombs. Incense cones for use in the altars are shown between them. Surrounding the altars are shown trussed cattle, offering tables, surrounded by boxes of food and vessels of wine and beer. Sounds like they're getting ready for a party, doesn't it? The entire festival area is, of course, blessed by the rays of the Aten. Mary Ray, called Mary Ray II by Egyptologists, was the overseer of Akhenaten's 2 treasuries. He was also a royal scribe and overseer of the house and harem of Nefertiti. His tomb, TA2, is right next to Huya's. This is Davy's photograph of the outer hall of Mary Ray II's tomb. And here's 2 modern photos. Here's a plan of Mary Ray's tomb. The Durbar scene is found just after entering on the right-hand wall, numbered 4 on this plan. In Mary Ray's depiction, the Durbar is already underway. The tribute scene in Mary Ray's tomb was badly damaged, even before Davies copied it, as can be seen in this photo published in the rock tombs of Amarna. In the footnotes, Davies says he used drawings by Robert Hay and Nestor Lahote to fill in the gaps. Here's a recent photo taken by Barry Kim. Today, Mary Ray's tribute scene is still quite damaged. Guess we need somebody to come and restore it. Davies' drawing of the Mary Ray tribute scene has some similarities with the scene at Huya's tomb, but with much added detail. The foreigners from the northern countries are shown on the left-hand side of the king's pavilion, and the tribes from the south are shown on the right. Akhenaten and Nefertiti sit enthroned, and their 6 daughters are shown in 2 registers standing behind them, observing the ceremony. The lion palanquins shown at Huya's tomb, which were used to transport the king and queen to the Durbar, are parked below the loggia where Akhenaten and Nefertiti sit. Here's a close-up of one of the palanquins. Notice the poles are supported front and back by figures of bound foreign prisoners, like these shown in TT-120, the Gurna tomb of Anen, who's the brother of Queen T, served under Amenhotep III as high priest in the Temple of the Moon. And he also bore the interesting title of Guardian of the Palanquin. Soldiers guard the proceedings, and 3 large bulls are brought to the ceremony in the bottom right corner. 2 of the chariots parked in Huya's scene are shown, probably waiting for the return journey, as I previously mentioned. Here's a close-up of the parked chariots. Attendants hold the horses in preparation for the king and queen's departure. And of course, today we actually have a genuine pair of Amarna period chariots. They were found in Tutankhamun's tomb. This is a closer view of Akhenaten and Nefertiti's 6 daughters standing behind them at the Durbar. It's the only tomb scene in Amarna where all 6 daughters are shown together. Unusually, their ages are not indicated, as in other tombs each younger daughter is shown smaller than her older sister. Here, they are all depicted the same size. Better preserved in earlier drawings, the names and actions of each daughter were recorded before Davies made this sketch. In the top trio, Akhenaten turns her head to face her younger sister, Akhenaten, who holds a persea fruit to Akhenaten's nose. Akhenaten holds hands with her older sister, Akhenaten. In the trio below, Neferu-Aten Tesheret is holding a gazelle, and her younger sister, Setep-Enra, holds flowers and pets the gazelle. The second younger sister, Nefer-Ure, looks toward her parents and holds out her hands in offering something. Akhenaten faces the scene of tribute from the southern countries. On the sloping ramp, Mary Ray II and 4 other officials ascend to present themselves to the king. They're followed by fan bearers and dancing men who rejoice at being able to participate in the proceedings. On the top register are examples of the gifts presented by the Nubians. Among them are golden chains, skins, ostrich feathers, shields, and a palm tree made of precious metal. In the second register, the Nubians present ivory, cattle, a leopard, and bars of precious metals. 3 supplicants are on their knees praising the king, and 1 is even kissing the ground in subjugation. The 3rd and 4th registers, soldiers present bound captives and the families of women and children, probably destined to become slaves. At the front of the 4th register, a man carries a pole festooned with cloth and beads, just like the one I showed in the top register, and another in front of him presents gold collars. As in many Amarna tomb scenes, 4 scribes record the events, perhaps so they can be accurately depicted on the tomb owner's walls. And finally, in the second from the bottom register, troops are demonstrating wrestling and their athletic prowess. Behind the king on the left side of the pavilion, Akhenaten's northern vassal countries bring gifts to be presented. In the top register are spears, bows, shields and other weapons of war, and a chariot and horses. Among the gifts in the 2nd and 5th register are a metal vase, a casket, an elephant's tusk, an antelope, an oryx, and a lion. In the 3rd and 6th row, fettered captives are led, each one pulled by a soldier. The 4th register shows a gift of another chariot and a horse, and at the front of the 4th and 2nd rows, women are being offered to the king. As Mel Brooks once said, it's good to be king. The kneeling figures at the front of each row are no doubt the emissaries of each region. In the 3rd row from the bottom are men dressed in long loincloths from the land of Punt, carrying gifts of incense. In the register below them are Libyans with ostrich feathers in their hair, giving ostrich eggs and feathers as tribute. More gifts in jars are depicted in the register at the bottom. The men presenting them may be Hittites. And finally, Akhenaten's soldiers guard the proceedings. Unlike the earlier kings of the 18th dynasty, Amenhotep III and Akhenaten seem to prefer diplomacy, not conquest, as attested in the Amarna letters. Thanks to the warrior pharaohs who preceded them, Egypt's empire was respected, and vassal states were willing to pay tribute for Egyptian protection. However, letters from their vassal kings like Ribhada, king of Byblos, show that these states faced a growing threat from their neighbors, like the Amurru and the Hittites, a threat which Akhenaten chose to ignore. Uprisings began once again just after Akhenaten's reign ended, and his successors would have to deal with them. A few scant records exist hinting that the next king, Tutankhamun, may have fought both the Nubians and the Syrians, but that's another story. Akhenaten's Durbar is a glimpse into the past that gives us a time machine to travel and witness the pomp and circumstance of giving the king foreign tribute. Foreigners bearing gifts are not uncommon in Egyptian tomb scenes, but the Amarna Durbar scenes are among the best, showing the king receiving this tribute. It was a truly remarkable single day that made history. So where was the Durbar actually held? Well, Barry Kemp has some ideas about this.